Every single thing we do, from turning on a light switch to eating a sandwich, relies on resources taken from the earth. Humans are dominant on the planet, and as our population has grown and our technology has advanced, our impact has become huge. We are now powerful enough to change global systems like the atmosphere and the hydrosphere. This lesson is about understanding the cause and effect relationship. How our needs and activities create consequences for the Earth's delicate natural balances. When we talk about natural resources, we mean all the materials and energy we get from the environment. We divide them into two categories. Renewable resources are those that nature can replenish relatively quickly, like the sun, wind, or a forest that can regrow. Then we have non-renewable resources, which form over millions of years, like oil, natural gas, or coal. Our current society is heavily reliant on these non-renewable resources, and once they're gone forever. Why is this a big deal? Two reasons: more people and higher consumption per person. As the global population grows and more countries modernize, the demand for cars, electricity, and goods skyrockets. Getting these resources out of the ground through mining, drilling, or logging is often destructive to local habitats. Then, using them, especially fossil fuels, releases pollution and waste into every part of the environment. It's a chain reaction. Demand leads to extraction, which leads to pollution. The land itself, the geosphere, is often the first thing we change. Think about building a city, a farm, or a highway. We have to clear the natural landscape. Deforestation, especially, is a major problem because forests are the planet's natural lungs, sucking up carbon dioxide. When we cut them down, we lose that natural cleaner and increase the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Urban areas also change how water moves, increasing runoff and often causing local flooding. One of the most valuable resources we often overlook is soil. Healthy topsoil, the layer where most plants grow, takes hundreds or even thousands of years to form. Unfortunately, poor land use, such as farming the same crop repeatedly or cutting down trees that stabilize the ground, makes the soil vulnerable. When heavy rain or strong wind hits, it washes or blows that rich topsoil away, a process called erosion. Because soil takes so long to regenerate, we treat it as a non-renewable resource. Our water systems, the hydrosphere, are also heavily affected. Water pollution comes from many sources. Factories release toxic chemicals, city sewage systems can overflow, and perhaps the largest source is agricultural runoff. This is the water that washes over fields, carrying pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers into local rivers and lakes. This contamination harms aquatic life and reduces the amount of clean, safe water available for humans to drink, or potable water. A specific type of water pollution called eutrophication is caused by excess nutrients, particularly nitrogen and phosphorus, from fertilizers. Imagine pouring plant food into a lake. These nutrients cause an immediate explosion of aquatic plants and algae, called an algal bloom. When these huge populations of algae die, bacteria feed on them, consuming all the dissolved oxygen in the water. This creates dead zones where no fish or other oxygen-breathing organisms can survive. Audio for slide 8. If you live in a city, you've probably experienced air pollution. This affects the atmosphere and comes primarily from the burning of fossil fuels in power plants, factories, and especially vehicles. These processes release things like sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and tiny soot particles. This pollution directly harms human health, causing respiratory problems, and it also contributes to environmental issues like smog, which is a thick, hazy mix of these pollutants. The air pollutants we just talked about, sulfur and nitrogen oxides, can cause a far-reaching problem called acid rain. When these gases rise into the atmosphere, they mix with water droplets to form mild acids, like sulfuric and nitric acid. When this precipitation falls, it lowers the pH of lakes and soil. In forests, it damages leaves and hurts root systems, and in cities, it slowly eats away at stone statues and buildings. Now for one of the biggest global impacts, the enhanced greenhouse effect. Naturally, gases like CO2 trap some heat to keep the Earth warm enough for life. That's the natural greenhouse effect. But human activities, especially burning massive amounts of coal, oil, and gas, are releasing far more CO2 and other gases than the Earth can naturally absorb. We are adding an extra blanket to the planet, trapping too much heat, which is leading to global warming. The global consequences of this enhanced greenhouse effect are what we call climate change. The most obvious effect is the rising global average temperature. This heat causes glaciers and polar ice caps to melt, pouring huge volumes of water into the oceans. This, in turn, causes global sea levels to rise, threatening coastal communities and low-lying islands around the world. But the effects of climate change are not just global, they're very local. That extra energy trapped in the atmosphere disrupts weather patterns. Some regions experience more severe droughts due to changing rainfall, while others see more intense, destructive flooding and extreme heat waves. In some coastal areas, warmer ocean water fuels more powerful hurricanes and typhoons. Climate change is making our weather more unpredictable and more extreme. All these changes to the land, water, and air have a direct impact on the biosphere, all living things. Habitat loss is the single biggest threat to species today, whether it's from clearing land or polluting a river. But climate change adds another layer of stress. When temperatures or rainfall patterns shift rapidly, many species can't adapt fast enough, forcing them to migrate or, tragically, face extinction. On a very practical level, modern society creates mountains of trash or solid waste. Most of this non-biodegradable waste, especially plastic, ends up in huge landfills. Landfills take up valuable land and can contaminate the surrounding environment if not properly managed, as rain can wash pollutants from the trash into the groundwater supply. We need smarter systems for dealing with the sheer amount of garbage we produce every day. The good news is that we have the power to change our impact through sustainable practices. Sustainability means using resources in a way that meets our needs today without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It's all about balance. A simple, personal way to practice sustainability is by following the 3 R's. Reduce the amount you consume, reuse things instead of throwing them away, and recycle materials whenever possible. Since non-renewable resources like oil and coal are finite, conservation is key. Conservation means using them wisely and finding ways to substitute them. Instead of driving a single-occupancy car every day, try carpooling or riding a bike to reduce gasoline use. In industry, recycling materials like aluminum and steel drastically reduces the need for energy-intensive new mining, which in turn saves coal and gas. One of the most important transitions humanity can make is switching to renewable energy sources. Instead of burning fossil fuels, we can tap into the endless, clean power of the sun, the wind, or geothermal heat from deep inside the earth. Generating power this way eliminates the air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions associated with coal and oil, making a huge positive impact on the atmosphere and climate. Water is the most fundamental resource, yet is often wasted. Water conservation strategies are crucial, especially in areas facing drought. In agriculture, switching from inefficient sprinklers to targeted drip irrigation saves massive amounts of water. At home, simple things like fixing a leaky faucet or installing low-flow shower heads and toilets can save thousands of gallons of clean water per year. We can also be better stewards of the land and soil. Sustainable forestry involves carefully managing forests so that trees are harvested slower than they can naturally regrow, ensuring a continuous supply of timber without permanent deforestation. Farmers are adopting techniques like conservation tillage, which reduces how much the soil is turned over, keeping the land protected from wind and water erosion. We've covered a lot about how human activity impacts all of Earth's systems: the atmosphere, hydrosphere, geosphere, and biosphere. All these impacts boil down to our use of resources and our disposal of waste. The essential message for MS-ESS3-1 is that we must shift from destructive practices to responsible stewardship. For your final challenge, think about a local issue, maybe litter, water pollution, or smog, and come up with 2 specific, sustainable actions that your community could take to improve the situation.